the first division, the first division, and to the SKNF as a club. Second club gaining acceptance as a member in Nevis. They're three.
Okay.
We have the Rivers, the church. That's an annual team in the league. They did well. Molyneux, and you always hear about Molyneux, and somebody's going to tell you Molyneux ain't going to show up.
Right.
But Molyneux came to their games.
Okay.
The surprise of the bunch, and part of the story will be told about Newton Ground, because Newton Ground over the years, a community with Kevin and one or two other guys have been fighting to get the team together.
Right.
But after COVID, a team that even if they played in Newton Ground, you just saw 11 players, came out to Kim Collins with 25 players.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And that for me alone, and for the Football Association, it was encouraging. But they are still in the first division. 2 teams will be promoted from the 4 that's top in the table. We had a lot of goals scored also. You had Bath scoring something like 39 goals. Bay scoring 42 goals. Surprisingly, KFC Challengers had 43 goals in third place.
Third place and scored the most goals. I mean, they conceded quite a few.
Well, let me retract a bit. KFC Challengers had 61 goals. That's I've seen one side of the page. And the goal difference is 43. Lodge had 37 goals, a difference of 9. Go back up to Bats. Bats had 50 goals and difference of 39. And Bay Eagles had 57 goals that they scored, a difference of 42 in the season. So we're looking forward to them, whoever coming to the Premier League.
To bring something different to the Premier League.
No, the Football Association over the years, and we've been trying, and I think you were part of the award ceremonies that we had 2 years ago. We were looking forward to keep one again because we realized that we have to take the players and clubs to a different level, and after all the football that they play, award them in splendor.
Okay.
And that's something again that I know the present executive is planning. There will be various individual awards for players and clubs.
What I'm going to do, I promise you, Don, I'm going to invite you back on here and we're going to go through that in more detail.
Okay, so let's get to the Premier League.
Right. Forgive me. What I wanted to do, as I said, is I wanted to look at, because you're a gentleman I know very familiar with most of these teams.
Yes.
So I wanted to look at the season 2018-2019.
The comparison wouldn't be the best unless you're going to compare first division, because it didn't end. The last season didn't end.
The last one I'm looking at was the one that was actually won outright was Village.
Yes.
Right. And what I said, so therefore I said I didn't want to do it from the perspective of the final Super 6. I wanted to do it just by the league end results. And that's what this here is a representation of.
Yes.
Right? Because you would not be able to gauge a champion because at the end of the day, you didn't have the completion. But at least you can gauge what their season-long performances were. And I sort of made a little grading system.
And I see it here too.
Yeah, for myself in terms of what I thought overall. And I figured I said I would share with you some of the ideas and get your feedback as to what you think. So we can start very quickly.
Yes.
The Rams Village Superstars, they played 27 games. They won 19 of those 27. That's in the 18-19 season.
2018-19.
This season, all teams played 5 less games. That should be noted. So all stats have to be weighed against that.
True.
They won 18 this season as opposed to winning 19 the previous season. Average to me is which means that they have improved.
Yes.
Right? In terms of their winning percentage. They lost 6 last season. They lost 1 this season, which is an amazing statistic.
They've been going.
They drew 2 last season and drew 3 this season. So at least they're not giving up the losses. they're finding some way to they've scored 84 goals as opposed to 56 the previous season.
Sure.
And they've conceded 21. So in terms of the goals scored and versus conceded, I think they hold the best record in the
overall. Yes.
As I said, they averaged 50. Well, they had total of 55 points at the end of the season, as opposed to 63 the previous season. But that's
By a shorter league.
It's a shorter season.
It's 12 teams, 2 rounds. The last season that they played in was 3 rounds.
Right.
And so they played more games, as you rightly suggested.
And I can only assume that given their record here, they could have been expected to win
more
of those games.
I don't think that's a prediction from the Football Association, but that's from what you're saying, because I don't want a person to think that way. It wasn't planned. But just to dwell into this a little bit, the village team is studded. Rogers, Bombers. A lot of these players have been scoring and making the national team
for quite some time now, at least some 2-3 years minimum.
Yes. And believe me, when Newtown was, and I tell people this, Newtown years ago was the Manchester team of St Kitts, where when you're coming up against Newtown, you're fearing.
Right.
Today, Village is more
taken that.
Yes. You know, just the image and the play to let you know we're here.
Okay.
You know, so change of the league, change the number of teams, no difference for them.
Yeah.
No difference. They're still going to fight. I saw a little piece of them going to church yesterday, and it's to me, it's about the togetherness.
Okay.
You know, so they continue to play very good football. Whether they have the best coach or not, that's a question that you could ask. But that
they
the players,
play despite.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
They play despite. But you still also have to give the coaches credit, because that
you can't
level
take that
of
away.
consistency
You can't take that away.
is not fluke.
That's true.
That level of consistency
They practice, they put in the
credit.
work.
Exactly.
Yes. You know, and even after the COVID, they came back. They, if you watch the stats for just before the COVID, came, they were at the top, but challenged by another team who was piping.
Right.
But I don't know if the COVID break took that away. But we'll discuss that. We go. Okay. So let's move on. I
graded them as an A, just for the record.
Yes, I saw the grade in here, and grade 8 out of what?
A.
Okay, A. Yes, okay, A, because I see an 8 here, and
no.
Okay.
Yes, grade 8. So
okay, so A for me is good because they have been a consistent bunch for the years, and you can't take that away from them. They did not win the championship last year, but they're still known as a champion.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So let's move down.
Second place last year was Escrave Newtown United, and they dropped 5 positions to 7th place, where they could not even make Super 6 this season. Just a brief rundown of their stats. They won 14 games last time around. They won 10 this time. Same 22 game thing. They lost 10 the last time around. They only lost 3, but they drew 9 as opposed to 3 the last time around. I think that's the games maybe that they should have won, they didn't.
True.
The goal difference is also a -7. 42 scored for, 49 against, while opposed to the last time it was 27 for them, 56 for and 20. So their goal scoring has left them, and their defense has obviously conceded at least 20 more goals in this shortened season than they did the previous season. They finished on 33 points.
Last season, 52.
I gave them an overall D grade.
Should I accept the D? It's debatable, but I because of the intimacy I have with the clubs, I can tell you that the Newtown that we had back the season had some rough times.
Okay.
Coach have left. New executive.
Oh, so there's a bit of instability.
Yeah, there was a bit of instability, and for me, Don Grant, as an executive member, I'll say this, and I'll spare no punches when I say it. What I don't like about the sport when it comes to clubs is that you must have an election. you must change executives, whether they stay or not. Persons who ran the clubs before, if you lose, it is. I think that you should still support who is there, because regardless if you lost, it's your community. It's not a community that you moved out of. And I think the reflection of what we're seeing, something was wrong. Something was wrong.
Linkage.
Yes.
You're saying that because of the instability, it's
impacted the players, everybody, even the community.
Given the fact that they've recently held, they have the new executive and everything in place, I am so we are set to say that even though the D might be acceptable as a grade, you can look out for them
to do better.
Better.
They have a young team, very good players. Defense-wise, goalkeeping, they might have to do some fix. The defense, their midfield might be one of the things that
definitely defense needs.
Yes, one of the things that I still see though, and people have been talking about it. Wampy Lake,
he's still there.
Sashi, all those guys still playing. I don't know if because they use their senior players for that long, they're still suffering from it. But they do have some young talent.
I think they do. I think that those guys came on late to try and see if they can help them get them over the edge.
Yes.
But I think if you're honest with themselves, the mere fact that you have to depend on those guys at this stage to carry you over the lane tells you, or so many of them, I don't mind a 1-2, but so many of them tells you that there is definitely
one of the things I'm seeing, and this is me looking into the future for Newtown, is that Newtown, because of the change of an executive and probably the coach, some of the players who moved away when they were having the instabilities, I'm looking forward to maybe some of them returning
back
home
and playing a more influential
for the next
role.
season.
I've heard that discussion as well in some different forums. Third place from last season was H.E. Garden Hotspurs. They've fallen 3 positions down to 6th. They managed to scrape through the qualification of the Super 6. As I said, the mere fact that they're there shows a steely type of determination. But the mere fact that they've fallen off where just a brief rundown of having played 5 less games, they won 10. They won 14 as opposed to 10 this season. They lost 5 last season as opposed to 3 this season. So the results are pretty similar. They drew 1 more this season, 9 as opposed to 8. Their goals for last season was 48 as opposed to 34. And the goals against, well, that's the difference, I would think, where the defense conceded almost as many goals, 33 last season as opposed to 31, having played 5 less games. And the goal difference last season was 15 as opposed to 3. The points was 47 as opposed to 33. So there's a bit of a fall off there. Some areas you can see consistency, but I gave them a C, in the sense that I know they too are going through a little rebuilding phase.
Yes.
And it's not a failure, but it's obviously, I think everybody within the camp knows there's room. But then I also said to someone, do not rule them out in this Super 6 either.
And the good thing about it too is that the son of the soil, Digo, Digo Huggins, returned to be the coach. I think there's a bit of respect between him and them. It might be a project that they're building
on. Yes, exactly.
And for me, I've seen the executive and other persons who tend to be supportive from what I've seen. I tend to just peep in on some of the teams when they're practicing, and you look at see what's going on with them. And I think Dico as a coach, he sets a standard.
Okay.
And sometimes you don't get him to budge. But I think that's something that the clubs need. You got to set standards and goals, how you want teams to react.
I've seen some good things coming out of them. They've got a little tall defender there in the back, a young fellow apparently. Can't remember his name right now, but there's a lot I see that.
Yes, there's this fellow Stingman. I keep referring him to that because he plays well, scores good goals.
Yes.
And
I think
Woven for me, Woven have played off and on at times. I've seen some of the old players who used to defend who come back again. It's a project that I think, with the executive that they have, will get it right.
Okay.
They will get it right. You know, the weirdest thing about it though is that after the COVID, football played from then till it ended, all competitive in each area.
Okay.
Because every match counted for someone, whether it's going to be relegated or whether it's going to make it. And the last match between the same Old Road Jets and Gardens, you see, it was a fight. It was a fight.
It was a very, very good match.
A very good match. So there's a lot of good for them. They might have fallen off from what we had before, but then again, it's a reduced season.
Process.
Yes, and it's a process for them
are we not yet
challenge.
sure how COVID has affected them long term?
Yes.
Fourth, last time was SL Horsford St. Paul's. They finished second this season. On the table, that is.
What was your grading for?
Spurs C.
Oh, okay. I'll accept that. We go to St. Paul's.
St. Paul's, they won 17 games as opposed to 11 with a longer season last time around. So they definitely won a lot more. They lost 8 last time around. They lost 3 this season. They drew 8 last time around. They only drew 2 this season. They scored 24 more goals, 64 as opposed to 40. They conceded 9 less goals, 17 as opposed to 26. Their goal difference is some 33 plus, in the sense that their goal difference is 14 last time. They're now 47, only bettered by Rams Village Superstars.
Yes.
And their points, despite a shorter season, has improved from 41 to 54. I gave them an overall grade of A as well, given the improvements they have made.
I think they will accept it. St. Paul's is playing behind a talisman who is scoring goals, whether his back is to the goal or otherwise. What I saw at the end, coming to the end though, you saw other persons scoring.
Stepping up.
You know, Don Roy, Mr. Liebert, you had Clark, you know. So the Super Six is poised.
Yes.
What will happen? And that's what's baiting everybody. What will St. Paul's do?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And if you have to compare past seasons to now, the talisman was iffy at times. Won't dwell into his what was causing that.
Now he's focused.
But now he's focused. Okay. I peed in on the practice yesterday morning, and he's done with the sweat and rearing to go.
Yeah.
You know, while the guys were going to the scrimmage, he left forward and started running.
Right.
You know, and you see that
the focus.
The focus is there. Nice. So
I like that type of story. To be honest, I like. And as you said though, I do also see a growth. I did also see the growth in them.
Yeah,
overall.
That's
There's a certain level of maturity now that you're getting in the team overall that is befitting of their position on the table. Yes, they don't have the star-studded effect of the Rams Village Superstars, but a worthy second place nonetheless. 5th place the last time was Saul Island Otto Connery. They ended up 3rd this time around. They won 15 goals. They won 15 games as opposed to 11 the last time. They lost. That's a typo there. Lost 7 the last time. I believe they would have lost.
I'll tell you now. Connery, they lost 7 this time.
7 this time?
Yes.
Okay. So it actually evens itself out.
Yeah, it's got 22.
Yeah, and then they so yeah, for them it's either a win or a loss, eh?
Yeah.
They did improve though overall.
Points.
They're dangerous team, as I keep saying, because they do have some very experienced campaigners and some very dangerous campaigners in their ranks.
O'Loughlin.
Yeah, those guys have been
Swazo,
there. Yeah,
you know, they have a very good goalkeeper. You know,
they've been there for a while, and there's no ruling them out.
They have a young coach, Asim Jenkins. Went to the club, made some changes. It seems as though they're mentioned. No fault of the past coach, because he went there and brought a championship.
Right.
Will Mr. Jenkins bring a championship to Connery? It's left to be seen.
It's left to be seen.
The only problem for them, for me, they did better they would have lost a player or two. I've seen other players come back. They have lost some young players to Keon, but they still are forced to be reckoned.
I gave them a B in my overall end of season reckoning.
If I know Connery well, they will tell you they want an A. So, but I think they accept your B.
Yeah. I'm not sure if the A yet. I mean, as I said, you have to have the fear-inspired kind of effect, and I don't think they have that. In sixth position, last time, fourth this time around, is Keon. And again, they made an improvement, two positions up. They won 14 games as opposed to 11 last time. They lost 2 as opposed to 5 the last time, which meant the defense improved. They even drew less. They drew 6 as opposed
Keon, I think they lost 6.
They lost 6, yes. Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at the draw column and then. So they drew 2 as opposed to 5. They lost 6 as opposed to 11. So they certainly cut down in the loss column. They scored a lot more goals, 64 as opposed to 25. They conceded, I would think, yes, more than they should, in the sense that they conceded more, 33 as opposed to 29 the last time. And they played less games, so that's not necessarily.
I think one of the problems in the defense and scoring is that they need to settle down on a goalkeeper. They need to find a goalkeeper. I'm not discrediting the goalkeepers that they have, but they keep alternating.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's the trust they have.
The comfort.
The comfort.
Yeah.
But Keon is now, as opposed to then, a very young team now. As I said, a few of the players who used to play Connery have moved there. I'm sure the average age of this team is 25.
Well,
if it's that old,
right?
It might be less. You know, but
which means that they have some learning and a good upside, because I have seen a lot of talent in the games that I've watched. A lot
and young guys,
Yeah.
Malik, Matthew, Lewis. You know, those guys are young guys who are willing to go. You know,
just give them a little bit more experience, and they'll be fine.
Go ahead.
I gave them a B+.
They'll take that.
7th last season, 9th this season. My team, my home team.
My community team. Yes.
You know, your community team. I had to give them a C- based on their performances. They won 6 games as opposed to 9 the last time. They drew 5 as opposed to 2 the last time. They lost 11 games as opposed to 16 the last time. There's a whole lot that needs to improve.
There's a lot to be said. And because I live in the community, as an executive member, sometimes I get costs for it from persons. But as an executive member, my responsibility is all clubs, not a specific club that even is on my community. And I have interest there. But I've seen issues with coaches, players who are not settling down. I think some of the players' eyes are on other teams rather than on focusing on what they're doing. So I think it came out over this season. So
if they make it, then you're going to have problems. You might lose some players.
I can't say yes or no, but I know a date in the Premier League is going to be a tense match between them.
A derby.
What is your grade?
I gave them a C-.
C-. Will they take that? I think they'll have to accept it based on what they've been happening.
They deserve anything more.
Yes.
Atiba Harris St Peters FC. They moved from 8th to 5th. A 3-point jump. I gave them a B+. They won more games, 5 more. They drew less games, 3 less. They lost less games, 7 less, 8 as opposed to 15 the last time. They scored more goals, 61 as opposed to 27. They conceded less goals, 33 as opposed to 44. So their numbers are trending in the right direction.
They are.
If they're in fifth
new
place.
Coach, I think the players have a belief that they can.
Right.
The executive that I know, Mr. Bass, Kimber, and those guys who are working with the team, I think they're closely knit and trying to push the envelope. They will always have challenges. But I think that where they are now and for Coach Nets, who is working with them for second time around, he have always been able to
Get
go
something
above
extra
and beyond from them.
out of them. Agreed.
Yes,
Above
yes.
all coaches I've seen with them, he seems to have a
he
special
seems to be,
relationship.
yes.
So I gave them a B plus. I think their improvement is deserving of that. Quickly, Mantab. They were in relegation before. They remained in relegation. I just gave them a C. I didn't punish them too much. There was no real major improvement. In fact, they won 4, but that could have been because they played more games. They lost. They only won 2 this time. They drew and they lost a whole lot.
The question for me is that they have good players, but I don't think there's a belief in them that they're playing for something. What came out though in the last match, it was a realization that why are we on the
brink
yeah, the brink
of going
home,
and they fought.
And they fought.
They fought.
Would they if they had won? Would we have seen a different Mantab next season?
I don't know.
And that's the question for me.
But to be honest, they didn't give themselves enough of a chance by their previous
to remain.
performances.
Yes.
So
I think it's a work in progress, and they will go down and have to. I hope they stay together, because it's always a team like this that will go down and come right back up.
Okay. Briefly, well, oh gosh, I didn't want it to be brief, but you did a little background on the Jets. I gave the Jets a B minus. They were in 10th position last time around. In time for relegation, they were 8th. They were battling out. It's a close 8th. They were battling for that Super 6 position. Those guys deserve some major recognition. Coach Isaiah, all those folks, I really want to give them a shout out. I don't know them personally, but I really think at least a minute should be given a shout out.
Tiki, Kwan, Morris, Jew, Fish, a lot of those players, Lance included, those players have made this OR Jets, the Jets, United Jets, all Jets, a model team for what we can do if the Football Association always hold on to the clubs.
Okay.
Because if we hadn't intervened, this wouldn't have been here. Morris joining the club have made it better. The challenges for me is that I would like to see the community and someone who leads them in terms of on the field who change their mindset at times, because they tend to lose focus and get wild up.
Well, given this type of performance I saw against Spurs, I really am looking forward to seeing them next season. That's
yes.
what
I'm going to tell you something now. Players going to join this bunch, but I hope they don't upset
the chemistry that's there now.
Yes.
Well, Morris is a seasoned campaigner.
Yes.
And he has won with Connery already, so
yes.
I'm not
and I know he challenged these guys a lot. So I expect better from them. Security forces.
Well, we have these are the 2 guys that came up last season. I left them for last because one is going to stay up with us, Trafalgar South Stars. Kudos to them. And the other one is going to go back down, the security forces. They conceded 105 goals. So there is no doubt in my mind that they deserve the fate that they're...
The one thing I will say for this though, my ears going back and forth from Trinidad, I've always said to the security forces, as a police team, security team, I think they should do better. They should be fitter and poised to be there.
I watched 1 or 2 of the games, and they weren't worth our time, to be brutally honest. I think they deserved every licking they got. And in terms of being, like you said, security forces supposed to be disciplined. So those are type of conversations we shouldn't even be having.
That is true.
With that type of team.
Trafalgar South Stars.
Trafalgar South Stars, I'm glad they were able to stay up. I saw some good things from them. Late. But it's enough for us to look at them and say, hey, let me give you another chance.
Yes.
And if you fought so hard to remain up and you got yourself over that, then those who haven't been able to make that mark, whilst I'm sorry for you, hey, shake your hand.
Wherever Gibbs, a coach or player, whatever he was with South Stars over the years, wherever he is today, he's smiling to say, my team reached the Premier League, they have stayed, and there's hope. And also, I just want the guys to stick together. I think that we will see something challenging next season.
Coming out from South Stars.
Yes, and the Super 6 should be sweet. I'll come back at another time because there are a lot of interesting things that we plan to do for the Super Six. You know, the price have gone up $50,000. Each team in the Premier League now leave. Whether you leave or relegated, you're gonna be going with something.
Okay.
Once you go down, you don't have anything. You just paid to register. No,
everybody gets. I believe that they deserve because I would like it to be broken down specifically for everybody.
Yes.
So I know we've gone a little over time, but it was absolutely necessary. Actually, we were given a little bit of extra time. So
thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys. So maybe you can then now break it down a little bit. Tell us what's happening in this Super Six. What makes it so exciting? I must say, I had my doubts when it was first announced, in the sense that I thought it was going to be a bit more. It was drawing out the season a little bit longer than it should have been. I was questioning the quality, but now having seen the excitement coming down toward the end of this last season, there, I can see the vision that was started with the Super Six. So give me a little bit of what's happening.
Okay, our President Anthony Johnson had this vision that more persons or clubs in football should be given more.
Mm-hmm.
And what we had before was the final four teams exposed to the top,
right.
You know, and he didn't feel as though the pie was being shared.
Okay.
And he came up with the idea of the Super Six. How do we sell the Super Six? We had a committee, you know, because we were poised to launch and do a lot of things for it. One of the things, we had the coordination meeting yesterday for the clubs on a Sunday. They came. We had already envisaged that we'll bring in shirts for all 16, 30 shirts to sell it. So they will wear that shirt, exposing the... Yes, because that's the clubs though will some of them are saying they want to put on their logo. That's fine, but we have their logo stick to them and what their sponsors they want to do that.
Right, yeah.
So we started there. We wanted to brand the football.
Okay.
Brand the Super Six.
Right.
MVPs. Again, I go back to because we had the award ceremony. We were finally able to get one of the award ceremony, and we plan to go a bigger one this time to make the players feel that's what you are.
Okay. What
Females,
you've earned.
what you've earned.
Right.
Winners now $50,000.
He's celebrating you.
You're celebrating you.
Okay.
You know, in the past we have had Swatch, the sports center, all those things, giving awards to the MVPs and all those things.
Right.
We're doing that.
Right.
But one of the things that we have in football, because it's amateur football, the clubs don't have the funds. Our football is supported basically by FIFA.
Right.
Not even the gate makes the amount that we want to. But we want to give back to each player something in their hand that's tangible, even if it's a few funds.
Okay.
You know?
That's
So it's
monetized.
monetized.
Vince, are you actually? I wanted you to hear this particular point here because remember you told me I had a question for Don. No, it's not a question he asked. It was something he said. Repeat that there for me.
One of the things that we're doing in the Super Six, we want to monetize the players getting something from it, individual players, because even though it's not a professional league, the president in his leadership thought that hey, we need to give those guys something in their hands. You know, the sad thing though is that COVID is here,
right?
And what we want fans to realize, we're no longer going to have a packed stadium of, let's say, 3,000, 2,000 fans.
Right.
We are going to have half of whatever
we
the
could have
stadium
done
can
before.
hold.
Right.
Yes. We need persons to come. Make sure you walk with your mask. Keep them on. We have the space inside the stadium, social distance or physical distance. If you're with your family, you can stay together. But
before you run away from the topic,
yeah.
My question to you is, yes, you can start the monetizing of the gate.
Super Six. The players.
The players.
Yes.
Why only in the Super Six? Why not in the regular season? Because let's say before COVID, when, for example, when you had like a Newtown versus Village per se, the stadium will be packed, and I think that it is only fair these people who are entertaining. These people who are entertaining this number of fans should be paid, because if the football players was to come together and let's just walk out the park today, we are not going to pay to watch the grass. No day.
That is true. That is true. there's a lot of conversation as to amateur as opposed to a semi-professional or professional league.
But we moved away from amateur.
We are amateur. We are amateur.
Yeah,
the league is still amateur.
We can't register as anything but amateur.
We are amateur, and that's where persons are making the mistake. All right? But bear with me. There's nothing wrong with we awarding a player of the match, each match you award something like that. We can. There's a two-way street when it comes to the football and awarding. Remember, we're preparing players to go to college. We're preparing players probably move off to semi-professional or professional. You still have to watch what you do with some of the players. Players who are going to college cannot be taking
taking money. That is a fact, because it will mess up.
You got to be careful.
The chances.
Because you'll sell them as professionals when they are not. The sponsorship of a professional league where the players get paid is something that you have to work on. Let's take a sponsor. I'll just pick a company that sponsors a team. SL Hospitals, let's take Rams. They sponsor. Are these clubs monetized enough to pay their players? Because in the professional realm, the clubs pay their players. Are we? You spoke about the stands being full. I want persons to be careful with that label of stands being full, because just last night in our meeting, I had to say to some of the clubs and persons, the security had to say, we're cheating the Football Association and the players themselves, because we have complimentary passes that we give clubs and persons, and if we don't watch the gate, 10 persons come in on the same pass.
Agreed. I've seen that.
10.
That's fair.
So it's a discussion that we need to have when it comes to security, everything that is involved in pain.
Abuse.
In addition to that, pain have now become a part of the sport. They're no longer volunteers. We don't have volunteers on the field as referees. We pay them a little more as a stipend. If you have Red Cross, whatever, everybody who come today come with a fee. It's just the players alone that we need to find a way to fix so that they can get something in their hands. And it has to be a discussion between the clubs and the sponsors or business partners and
as well as the FA.
Okay, fair. But you was talking about players moving away from St Kitts and going to college.
Right.
For example, semi-pro. Let's be realistic. If there are 500 players, 5% of those players going to college now. I mean, asking you. I'm telling you, no. Semi-pro, there's a possibility because we know within ourselves. Like, I spoke to numerous players before, and you'd basically tell them the best way to reach a higher level is to go to school. But they want to hear that. Let's be real.
Believe me, we have had that example of players don't want to go to college, but instead would try to get to a professional league. Now, you got to also bear in mind that we, St Kitts and Nevis, in the realm of 211 countries playing football, where we sit. Our market. We reach out to scouts. Scouts reach out to us. Colleges reach out to us. Clubs. As a matter of fact, some of our players will go to Trinidad, the Jamaica. For me as an executive member, sometimes I feel that our players are being used. I feel that way, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I would like to see our players moving into maybe Central America, maybe Europe, but there are challenges with our ranking and what we play. We have to sell our players' attitude to going out there, because we have had players who have gone out, and these might be the real ones. But when they reach, they expect what they're accustomed to at home, and they don't acclimatize, and they find themselves back home.
Okay, Dan. Quick question. How is the selection process for players to go overseas or abroad? What is the selection process like?
Selection for national team or to go to college or?
And yeah, college and the national team.
Okay. The technical department that we have, there's a technical committee, there's a technical director, and so on. Most of the time when we play games, and this is the reason why the Football Association have tried its best to have our games seen abroad. We brought in Andrew Huey, and believe me, what his production is doing is better our games are seen all over. But it's a two-way street. Colleges, scouts see you, or they request players. We have scouts, again, we have contact with schools, contact with other countries who are part of football. They will reach out to you, they might represent a club or a school. Hey, we're looking for a defender, we're looking for, and that is how it goes. Then the information comes to the Football Association and goes to the technical department and the technical director. And they, from what we have, they start selecting, hey, these are the persons that we're looking at. But there's also a backward draw for us, because sometimes some of the players don't have a visa. Those are things we have to quickly work on. There are also players who get contacted by scouts to go places, and we find out about them last minute. But the executive that I am a part of, with Johnson as the president, whether they come later or not, once the Football Association have the money, or it has to come from his pocket, he helps. The problem is, we need to be fair across the board. If you get contacted by a scout, let us know. Don't do it through the back door. Because if it goes wrong, the Football Association have to reach out, because you're all players. So it's colleges, they send scouts, they send the information. For example, after our under-23 team played in Jamaica, Jamaica didn't beat us. Arnett Garden sent asking about specific players. Some of the players, when they hear Jamaica, they were like, me want to go to Jamaica. You know? Eventually, two of our players went, Gio and Salas. Now, they came back home because of the COVID. What could have become of them, we don't know. But we have players like Atiba, who went out there and suck up, took it, and survived. We have had Kayamba, Keith Kayamba Gums. Keith Kayamba Gums ran with his dog, played football all morning, all day, because he was preparing for something bigger. Our players, it's not really down to the Football Association alone. It's down to players and the system, the way they approach everything. So it's a two-way street, but we, from the Football Association, will never. We have females out there who got to college because of football, and they're the ones who took it and gone, and they made something of it. But most of the time, the fellas, we offer the SATs, because we feel that football and education should be married. Why? Football can't last forever. But if you had education, that is why. And we have had players who, we have partners in New York, the soccer graduates. They have scouts from colleges who will come in and look at the players. And some of the players will frankly say, I don't want to go to college. But it's a start. And when you hear it on the street, it sounds like the Football Association is doing something wrong. But we are not, because we will always look out for the players, whether male, female or not. I'll say this, because the fact that young men like you are asking the question, there's a lot that we need to do. And we always tell ourselves we're suffering because we do so much, but we don't let it be known. FIFA gives $1 million annually. We get it in two tranches of $500,000. The money has been increased over the years, but you know what FIFA does? They have increased the tournaments. So we have on the 15 boys and girls, on the 17 boys and girls, on the 20s, and you have your Olympic qualifiers at time, World Cup qualifiers. But here one of the problems we have in St Kitts. We are a British country where most of us don't have a visa. The youth leagues, most of the youth leagues or tournaments are played in Tampa. Mm-hmm. What happens? Most of the players don't have a visa. So here what we have to do. We have to buy tickets. We have to do 2 trips. Barbados, with the monies, that we have to go one way and still buy the tickets to go to Tampa. Sometimes some of the players don't even get you.
What about hosting some of these competitions?
For some reason, since the new president of FIFA, Infantino, and the president for CONCACAF, for some reason I don't know if you guys were following the football, there was some breakdown in the Caribbean with Webb in Cayman Islands, yeah. Mm-hmm. And they have moved most of their tournaments to out of the, especially the youths, and that's our handicap. When we took over as the executives of football, you know what we did? We played so many tournaments in St Kitts because we wanted to expose our talent. But it also comes at a cost. Because every time we host, we spend up to $300,000. Accommodation, transportation, feeding. But people still ask you, what are you doing with the money? You know? And believe me, and this is why I don't hide the facts. I will never hide the information because people take what we do for granted.
In most instances.
You know?
So that's
you know, this part of the show is yours.
So, but it would also behove us to not acknowledge that there is still a lot more that
we
can
do.
Should be done.
I'm going to say this for myself as an executive member who've been there for almost 12 years. One of the things I've always struggled with, I live in Sadler's and I try to see all the games that I can see.
Right.
And my feeling as an executive member for national team, all our national teams, selection, there should be a selection committee. Why a selection committee? One or two men or a lady cannot watch all the games and all the talent we have in St. Kitts. And you need to move around the islands and see. We have suffered from where one of the main selectors or some of the selectors only come to the park for the last game.
Well, what I'm going to do, Don, here's what I can do, right? Before the year is done, Vince, we're going to pull him back in here.
And you're going to get nothing but the truth and what we do.
And I'm
not going to hide it.
We can fire some questions similar to
Don't worry,
because I want to challenge you on the same selection. I think there's a lot to be unpacked and unpicked there in terms of the selection process. Those guys asked very good questions about the entrances into college, because to me, sports, and I've been saying it on this program over, sports and education are the two keys.
Must be fused.
And for 54,000 people, maybe 30,000 youths, it's supposed to be an easier path.
And just before we go, I'm going to say this to you guys also. One of the things that our Football Association started recently, over the years, each club have to adopt the primary school or school in the community. You know why? Because we need that hand in hand. You need to start with the players from small.
I agree.
And
I agree.
we are going to fix that to the point where if you see a school team, it must reflect the club that is there, because they must be working together. What
I don't want to do is dilute the conversation, and because I think, as I said, there's a lot more that we have to unpick. So thank you.
I was wondering about the adoption and like on the 15, on the 13, like the whole system you would have to do if you join the Premier League, right?
Yes. I know, because I live in the countryside. I know the handicap of some of the clubs. I know Manta, for example, who was a Premier League team. Their school only have like 50 students. Most of the students are gone. But we must be able to work, though, with the process in our communities to use the club to build the communities. You know what happens if you build a community? You build the club. You know, so it's something that we have and we expect. One of the things that we will have to do, and I've not hidden this at all, we have a club licensing process that grades all the clubs. But the club licensing that we do is from CONCACAF. We must have a club licensing project which is local. So if you start off as a club with just your one team, we must be able to work with you in your community and bring you to that point where we could now grade you at that level. So you will have some clubs who only could do a one or two youths. But we will work with you. We don't expect all of them to have females, because females are ticklish. And that's another story, because we need to discuss how we could fix the female league. All right?
I want to ask so many questions, so I hear biting my tongue, and I don't think it's fair that you keep hitting the man some of the hard questions.
There's no hard question in this.
I can't get to hit them.
He will have
to be back. And I
like your questions, guys.
Thanks a lot, Don. I mean, you've been enlightening so far, and obviously there's a lot more we have to unpick. But in making that appointment, I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing the information. And thank you, audience, for sticking with us for that additional 20 minutes. And thank you guys for understanding there afterward. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you again next week on the bench.